So our theme for this month is, and has been, Spirit in Motion, being the transformation. And remember our definition for transforming. It's more than just changing, and it's more than just improving. It's more than just becoming a bigger, brighter version of what is right now. To transform is to become something or someone that heretofore has never existed. And as a reminder, spiritually, we know that there is nothing to transform into. There's nothing to become, because we already are divine. We already are perfect expressions of Spirit, of God, of the wholeness. And we talked about, for those who weren't here, there's a word it's called a koan, and it's a Zen term. And it's the transformation is the process. A koan is something that is paradoxal. So this is our koan for this, and it's a transformation is the process of becoming that which you already are. So that is what we're looking at this month. And as we've really discussed all month, this process involves 4 stages which occur in an ever-ascending spiral. And I ran across this great statement recently, and I couldn't find who wrote it. And it was something like, life is like a book that never ends. Chapters close, but not the book itself. The end of one experience is like the end of a chapter, and on a new level, setting the beginning of another. And we live in an ever-ascending spiral of consciousness and experience. There's no endings, there's just always new beginnings. So the 4 stages of this evolutionary spiraling process, when each week we've looked at one of those, stage 1 is dissolving. And it can be the most painful part if we hang on to that which is dissolved. Our phrase to help us through this stage is, it is until it isn't. And I was reminded recently, just by talking with different people that things like a marriage, that perhaps there's been abuse or there's been betrayal or something, and that the best thing would be for either spouse to leave or be away from that, but they stay. And why do they stay? It's dissolving around them, but they don't let it go. And I think they stay because it's what they know and it's comfortable. And so it can be painful until it isn't. It is until it isn't. And so I think a lot of times those of us on the outside can see where something may need to change, but when you know it in the inside, that's when it becomes to the point where it isn't anymore. And stage 2, imagining the call of the divine within us to live our lives at a higher level of expression. So many times you hear people say things like, I didn't know there was another way to think about this. I didn't know that there was another choice I had. And then they do. Their imagination opens up and they realize, oh my gosh, I have another way I can do this. And our phrase to keep us on track with this stage is, what I see, I can be. What I see, I can be. It reminds me of that young man, looking up in the penthouse, and he's living in the streets, just barely getting by, but he sees that chandelier, and he sees the family sitting down to an elegant dinner, and instead of, shaking his fist and saying, why do you have it and I don't, he says, that's for me. That's for me, because what I see, I can be. So, Napoleon Hill, it was the one, and you've all heard this. I was listening to, I think you brought it up, or Suzanne did in class. It was a video, a YouTube. You can watch him, and you just feel like you're, back in the 40s and 50s or whatever. But he said, what the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So this is where our imagination is such a powerful tool for us to use. Stage 3, reforming. This is what we talked about last week. The internal changes that are required if the higher level of expression is to be expressed. If we get stuck here, if we're afraid to make the necessary shifts, remember what we said last week. We either evolve or we devolve. And while we didn't have a phrase last week for this stage, I was thinking, what could that phrase be? How about shift happens? And I'll say it very carefully. Shift happens. We have to be careful with that. But it's true. Things shift, and then a way is made. And that takes us to stage 4, which is today's stage, and that is the stage of flying. I've been looking forward all month to this stage. And to set the stage for this stage, I have a parable for you, and not the parable of the goldfish, which was the first in the first week, but the parable of the water beetle, because apparently bugs and fish have this transforming thing down, okay? Where we're kind of not quite as evolved. Yes, we think we're the evolved ones, but apparently the bugs and the fish have it down better. So once, in a little pond in the muddy waters under the lily pads, there lived a little community of water beetles. They lived a simple and comfortable life in the pond with few disturbances and interruptions. Once in a while, sadness would come to the community when one of their fellow beetles would climb the stem of a lily pad and would never be seen again. They knew that when this happened, their friend was dead, was gone forever. Then one day, one little beetle felt an irresistible urge to climb up the stem. However, he was determined that he would not leave forever. He would come back and tell his friends what he found at the top. But when he reached the top and climbed out of the water onto the surface of the lily pad, he was so tired and the sun was so warm, and he decided that he must take a nap. And as he slept, his body transformed. When he woke up, he was no longer a water beetle, but instead he was a beautiful blue-tailed dragonfly with broad wings and a slender body designed for flying. And fly he did. And as he soared high, he saw the beauty of a whole new world and a far superior way of life to what he had ever known had existed. And then he remembered his water beetle friends and how they were thinking that he must now be dead. He wanted to go back to them, and he wanted to explain to them that he was more alive than he'd ever been before. His life had been fulfilled rather than ended, but his new body would not go down into the water. He could not get back to tell his friends the good news. Then he understood that their time would come when they too would know what he now knew. So he raised his wings and flew off to his joyous new life. We have an advantage, though, don't we, over the dragonfly? We really can come back and share with our friends, at least on this plane of existence we can, for the main part. However, sometimes when we come back to share our good news, they don't always want to hear what we have to say, do they? It's hard to share sometimes, which is why having a spiritual community that we have here with like-minded people who celebrate with us, when we fly, is such a terrific and powerful thing, truly. A lot of times you will have people in your life that will not be happy for you when you are soaring, when you are successful, when you are happy, because all they can see is what they don't have. They can't turn that and say, oh my, if it's true for you, it must be true for me, because that is the way. If one thing out there is true for one person and it is wonderful and good, it must be true for all. There's nothing that says, okay, you were born, you go to this line, you go to this line. No, it's the law. It rains on the just and the unjust alike. What is true for one must be true for all. So it's just such a good thing that we have this opportunity to share with each other. And that's why we do our testimonials and our wins, and we can know for each other when wonderful things are happening. And we have a minister's email list. I've mentioned it before that I can become bogged down in this because sometimes there will be 52 messages from all the ministers all over the world really commenting on something, and so I kind of have to filter it out a little bit. But usually there's quite a substantial amount of good news being shared. Centers that are opening and centers that are expanding and celebrations and new buildings being purchased or rented or that sort of thing. And every time I would read about a new center opening up a new building or a new place or having an open house or something, I would think, oh, wow, that's us. We're going to do that. We're going to find our perfect place. We're going to open up. We're going to have our own wonderful spot that we can celebrate our Sunday services in. And, I would send congratulations to them. I would send a little note sometimes, or sometimes just respond online and say, good job, way to go. We're so happy for you. And, we continued on. Our board worked really, we pulled everyone in here to keep our visions high of what we wanted. And, we did. It took a little time. And, but then here we are. We have a place to grow. We have a place to begin, to really set a foundation and to create our center. And we're open. I have to tell you that we are open to expanding so big here that we will find another place, and that'll be another great journey upward. So it's a wonderful thing. But the point here is it's so important to never be jealous of a friend or a fellow congregant or a family member or other churches or anything out there who are experiencing their flying in their lives. That is, we want to use it as an inspiration in our lives and say, that's for me. Or even if it isn't for you, oh, good for you. I'm glad you're getting what is feeding your soul. I'm open to whatever it is will feed mine. So we can do that. So I did give an assignment last week, and I know it's kind of hard. Some of you weren't here, but has anyone seen or rented the movie Aquila and the Bee? Has anyone seen that? Okay.
I've seen it.
Have you seen it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. For those of you who have not seen it, Aquila is an 11-year-old from a very poor and rough area of Los Angeles who imagined something great for herself. She imagined going to the Scripps National Spelling Bee. And she had, prior to that, had a very serious dissolving. She had the death of her father. I'm not going to give away the whole plot here. And in order for her to have any shot whatsoever of manifesting what she imagined, she had to truly reform her life. She had to change. She had to lose her attitude. She had to become teachable. She had to soften. She had to realize, recognize, remember her own brilliance, which was already within her. And a turning point for her was when she read on the wall of her tutor, there was right there on the wall, a quote from Marianne Williamson that we use here all the time. I read this all the time, and I love to see it in movies because you know it's getting out there. These ideas are getting out there. Although the movie did incorrectly attribute it to Nelson Mandela, it was Marianne Williamson who wrote this, and the quote was, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it's not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, and I love this, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And we are liberated from our fear. Our presence automatically liberates others. So even when we don't realize what we're doing, we have such an incredible effect on everyone else, even those tiny steps. Aquila had to reform who she thought she was. She had to have a bigger idea for herself. She had to readjust again, and a major readjustment when her dreams seemed to be thwarted. Don't you always see that in the movie? They almost get there, and then something happens. This young girl went through reformation after reformation, and as she underwent her total transformation, and she took all that she had been through and all that she had learned and all the ways that she had transformed into the end of the movie, and believe me, she flew. You know it's got a happy ending. She flew. She flew so high and in ways that would not really have been expected. And her community flew with her. She brought her community with her and rejoiced with her. So if you have seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Patricia knows.
Well, I was excited about the community part.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
definitely.
And if you haven't, I have a proposition for you here, a challenge. Rent the movie. I really want you to see this movie. Rent the movie and carefully watch. Watch for at least 4 stages, and I think there's more than that. But the 4 stages we've talked about this month, which are dissolving, imagining, reforming, and flying. Watch for those, just little incidents in there. And when you see them, write them down, email them to me. My email is on the card, my card out there, and email them to me. And we'll have a little contest. Okay,
What's
so
the prize?
well, I don't know yet.
Oh.
Between now and Friday, June 7th at 5 p.m., email me, okay, as many ways as you see that Akila flies at the end of the movie, or how she helps others fly, and the one who sends in the most. So we're just going to concentrate on the flying part. When she's flying or helping others fly, they're going to get a special prize and maybe something chocolate. I don't know. Polly? Well, she's going, what? So we'll come up with a prize, which will be the second Sunday in June. So it'll be the second Sunday in June where we'll announce the winner. So if you want to email, if you want to watch the movie, watch the number of ways that she flies, and then let me know. So we each have in us the ability to fly. Every single one of us has that ability within us to fly. We each have the ability to explore fully the heights of our being, to discover what it might really mean to co-create with God. I just love that feeling. We're co-creating. We're not alone in this. We're not set out in the desert and said, do it. We're co-creating with God. Not only to use the law, deepening into an understanding of how our thoughts create our reality, but to allow a spiritual awakening to take place in us, an awakening to the power and presence of God within us. We each have innately within us the desire to fully embody the lyrics of Ricky Beyer Beckwith's I Release. Remember their song, I release and I let go. I let the Spirit guide my way. It's just beautiful. Or I'm only here for God. I'm only here for God. Or the lyrics in Use Me, O God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. And so I invite you to evoke from within that which you really are. Allow the larger vision to emerge through you. Realize your essential purpose, to explore fully the heights of your being, to discover what it means to co-create with God. Not to just manipulate the possibilities of our lives, the goals, the things that we set for ourselves to do, but to actually increase the possibilities through awareness, through changing our consciousness. Because it's interesting, when we change within, the world changes without. To begin to understand that we're really floating on an ocean of infinite potential, and we are here to soar as we create our life. Ernest Holmes, who's our founder, tells us, anything you can dream of is not too great for you to undertake. And he said, you exist in limitless opportunities which are forever seeking expression through you. You would not be given the dream if you were not given the tools to see it made manifest. So say yes to that which is the greater unfolding in your heart and your life and your world. So I want you to hear this morning from Polly, who's going to share with us, who has said yes to a greater unfolding of her heart, and who's gone through those stages of dissolving and imagining and reforming and is now soaring. So Polly, please come and share with us this morning.
Hi, well, I would like to say that Chris has been asking me for 3 weeks now to share. And I've been saying, I don't know. So this morning, well, I guess yesterday I just said, okay, that's it. I'll do it. I'll figure something out. It'll come to me. I took a stand, and that's usually when things do come to me, is when I take a stand. And so I'm doing my hair this morning, and it hit me that I've been in that goo for all this time. And that's when you don't know because nothing has emerged yet. And last night we had a graduation party, and I've had a lot of stuff happening all at the same time. And when these people started coming into my home, I was so amazed and so blessed at how many people love us. I get so busy, and And I was so worried about this party, and everything was crazy, and then boom, it happened and it was perfect. And I realized, wow, that was like one of those stages. You know, we imagined the party, we planned the party, everything was crazy, not knowing what's going to happen, and now the party emerged. And I kind of realized that I'm really in all of those stages somewhere having to do with something in my life. I'm always in planning, I'm always in imagining, I'm always in and I'm always in having transformed, and then it starts right over again. So I just started looking back into, let's say, 2 years ago when I decided to start a new career. How many years ago when we decided to have children, and now they're starting to fly. And all these different stages in my life, and I have probably, I'm a great multitasker. I probably have at least 20 things going at once, and they're all in different stages. And that was why I didn't know, because I'm so busy being in it, it's hard to see what's really going on. So what I think I really want to share is I think it's good to reflect. You know, because you don't know how far you've come until you look at where you were. Not to stay there, but just to see I'm a completely different person than when I met Chris. How many, 10 years ago?
At least.
You know, and I was just really truly starting a spiritual journey that worked for me. And so yeah, I just want to share that I think that we're always, all of us are always in, at some point in these 4 points in different areas of our lives all the time, and it's good to reflect and it's good to imagine, and we're growing and changing, and it's awesome.
Thank you, Polly. And I think Polly really brought up a really good point that I don't think we take enough time when we're in our reflection to really appreciate ourselves and what we have accomplished and what we have already done. I think it's important that we do that. And I read something on this recently, and that you just reminded me of that we do need to take time to really appreciate how far we've come. You know, if you're a parent, if you have had a career, if you have done something nice for a neighbor, anything that you have done, I mean, that is God shining through. And it's important to reflect on that and to appreciate yourself, because we're really good about appreciating everybody else, aren't we? But I think we need to take time for ourselves as well.
Call it self-acknowledgement.
Self-acknowledgement. Yeah, I think that's important, because
and maybe we won't hunger it from others.
isn't that, you know, that was my aha for this week, was that, you know, a lot of times we look outside ourselves for joy, we look outside ourselves for someone to make us happy or whatever, and I noticed that things out there were affecting my mood. I would feel depressed sometimes, or I would feel anxious, whoa, my joy comes from within. And I meditated on that, and anytime I start to feel like something out there is dictating how I'm going to feel, no. What I choose to feel comes from within, and it is an ever-flowing source, and it is never dry. It is always there. So that was a very good point. And so we need to remember to look within and not without, for our truth, because that's where it is.
Could I don't know, I don't want to interrupt your timing and all, and I'm really glad to be here.
It's so nice to have you here.
I teach on the weekends, so
yeah, I'm so glad you're here.
But when you mentioned that Marianne Williamson and this whole thing, a concept that people may want to look up is the shadow. I've done work with Debbie Ford, who, bless her soul, she passed away.
Yes, recently, yes.
But she works with a shadow, and a shadow is not only Carl Jung's thing like guilt and shame, the things we push back
right.
and pretend we're not. But there's, she brought up the concept of the shadow of the light, which is what Marianne Williamson is referring to, that we're afraid of our light.
Yeah.
And I know I'm a perfect example of that. I'm afraid to.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So people might think on that.
That's.
We all have that secret that's like how awesome we really are, what have we done.
Yes.
But we don't let it out.
We are God's gift to the world. That's often said derogatorily, but you know, it's true, and we have to realize that what we have to give is of value, and it's wonderful. So I would like to conclude my talk today with a closing prayer, ending with the words from the great Sufi mystic Rumi, who wrote, "You were born with potential. You were born with goodness and truth. You were born with ideals and dreams. You were born with greatness. You were born with wings. You're not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly. And in my words, learn to use them and soar high." And so it is.
So